Diary of a Man in Despair. Friedrich Reck. March 20, 1938.
And now, Austria. We have seen it coming for weeks. Naturally, we sensed what it all meant, these threats and staged riots, the whole shabby performance designed to provide an excuse for intervention. And now tank and artillery columns are rolling down every street, under the command of agitated young SS men, and in my village, exactly as though this were a battle of life and death, the half-grown louts in the Hitler Youth are playing at being heroes, and volunteering for the army as though the enemy was a European great power, and not a tiny nation of 7 million inhabitants. I cannot help but see in this generalized brutality, this nasty satisfaction over the fate of the Austrian leaders, this general delight in ridicule and rape, something ignoble, which makes me deeply ashamed. Austria, poor, eternally derided Austria, whose only sin was, that until the end, and in the face of the attack on it by Greater Prussia, it held to a last recollection of the noble old Holy Roman Empire of the Germans. Now in Salzburg, where I have been staying these past few days, these Berlin potato faces fill the streets, together with their full-bosomed females. Thanks to the rate of exchange they are able to make off with everything for a song, including goods which are no longer available in Germany, and the store shelves are empty. They are behaving like a horde of servants whose masters are away, who have found the keys to the wine cellars and now are having an orgy with their women.
The gang are out of the house. Let us drink down all they've left. A kiss from you. And a kiss from you. Life at last, is what it should be.
Something of the sort. Swarms of Berlin League of German Maidens girls have been directed here for the moment, and they wave ecstatically at the tank columns rattling through the old streets. In the next issue of the Berliner Illustrierte Zeitung they will be pictured as local inhabitants, who greeted their German liberators with wild ovations. We know all about the talent for stagecraft of Goebbels, the limping haberdashery salesman. I hear that Schuschnigg is being held in the foulest kind of prison, and mishandled. They are all enjoying themselves over the misfortunes of people who had the temerity to stick to their posts to the end. Since it would be quite inconceivable for the writers, their writers, to absent themselves from the universal bacchanalia, Herr Bruno Brehm has come forward with a secretly printed brochure to mark the event. This contains a hymn to Hitler, who is lauded by this traitor to his people as the consummator of the dream of a German Reich. But the low point is reached when the North German press dares to speak of Austria's return to the Reich, as though these Prussians had any rightful claim to be considered the successors of the great empire of the Hohenstaufens and Habsburgs. As much right as a swineherd who rises in the world, marries the daughter of an ancient family fallen on evil days, and then claims he is in direct line of descent and entitled to bear the family shield. I spoke to my cousin, L., who is participating as a major general in this political burglary and cannot conceive why my eyes are not bright with pure joy at the event. I asked him if he imagined that a man of breeding like the elder Moltke would not have reacted with an immediate resignation if he had been given orders to make an attack of this kind. The frightening and incredible thing is that these Prussian officers, bearers of great and famous names, have no conception of the degraded roles they have been led to play here. It is this erasure of a feeling of honor, this ethical defect, this godless denial that boundaries exist between right and wrong that forces me to believe in a final and ignominious depth of the German spirit. Deeply moving stories are told, of Austrian officers turning their guns against themselves, of units from brigands who placed themselves in position for a hopeless battle against the invader, of ordinary soldiers of the old Salzburg Rainer regiment, who threw themselves from the castle windows of the Salzburg fortress at the humiliation of their country. Why in the world did Schuschnigg not give the order to shoot, in one last attempt to awaken the rest of the world from its incomprehensible lethargy with these shots? The bordering countries watched this miserable rape of a little nation, and shrugged their shoulders. Nobody is moving to stop this before it is too late. It almost seems that they prefer to stand back and wait until the cobra breaks out. But I foresee a day when the nations will regret their cowardly passivity. The cost is beyond measuring, but they will have to pay, someday. In this first great breach of the peace, the criminal has been let go unpunished and is thus made to appear more powerful than he is. And as he is made more powerful, we, who are his last opponents inside Germany, are made weaker and more impotent. Are we, and all who think like us, to run into the machine guns of a Nazi army which, thanks to the lethargy of the governments, now has Austria's guns as well? I put the question now, and see the day coming when I will ask it a second time, after the inevitable Second World War. If 5 years ago, at the time of the so-called assumption of power, the European nations had taken action, everything would have ended with a police raid, with the gang being hustled off to jail by the collars. But what did everyone do? They stood by and watched, and thus made impossible any resistance from inside Germany. What are they doing now? They are standing by and watching, preoccupied with figuring out a way to avoid irritating Herr Hitler, and so making any resistance even more impossible. In time to come, you will be able to do certain things. You will be able to punish those who with their wretched political deals made possible that infamous day in January 1933, and you will be able to punish the military and industrial men behind the scenes. But one thing you will not be able to do, you will not be able to make the whole nation, in extenso, responsible for a regime which you, yes, you, have strengthened. You have broken our internal resistance through political lethargy, and you are nevertheless demanding of an unarmed people that they do what you, with your mighty armies and the most powerful navy in the world, do not dare. There will come a day when you will come face to face with this reproach, and this accusation. As I write, an immense flight of bombers is droning past overhead. For a whole hour the drone has gone on above, as though these planes were flying against a world power. I am a German, I encircle this land in which I live with all my love. Never again can I be torn from here without going to seed. I tremble for each tree in each wood that disappears, for each silent valley that is devastated, for each stream that these pirates of industry, the real masters of our land, threaten. I know that this land is the living, beating heart of the world. I will go on believing in this heartbeat, despite all the covering layers of blood and dirt. But I know also that the thing up there that rumbles and thunders is the denial of right and justice, of truth and faith and everything that makes life worth living. I believe that this is a caricature of Germany, smeared by a malignant ape escaped from the leash. You, up there, I hate you waking and sleeping. I will hate and curse you in the hour of my death. I will hate and curse you from my grave, and it will be your children and your children's children who will have to bear my curse. I have no other weapon against you but this curse. I know that it withers the heart of him who utters it. I do not know if I will survive your downfall. But this I know, that a man must hate this Germany with all his heart if he really loves it. I would 10 times rather die than see you triumph. Writing this, I shrink inside myself. Soon it will be Easter, and as though in derision the final chorus of the St. Matthew Passion rings out from the radio at just this moment. Were setzen uns in Tronen nieder. Germany, my Germany, yes, this chorus, once this spoke for us. And now? Now, still, overhead, these white savages steer their moronic automatons, flying toward brutality and crime, drowning out the peaceful stillness of this spring day. I am crying. But it is more out of fury and shame than out of sadness.